Yeah,
Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, and when we talk about Afghanistan, everybody's why did we go into Afghanistan? Well, the major northeast portion, which is called the Hindu Kush, is the greatest area in the world, other than the Golden Triangle in Burma, Laos, and China, for growing illegal drugs, opium, and refining those drugs. And when we went in there, in 2001, the gross world product of illegal drugs for Afghanistan was 6% of the world's supply. And after we were there for 7 years, and this is data I'm getting from the New York Times, after 7 years, they supplied 96% of the world's drugs. Now, Al-Qaeda didn't do that. The Taliban didn't do that. We did that. We went in, organized their fields, and started producing it. And of course, we're not going to give any of that profit to them. That was our deal, and that's why we stay there.
Were you meaning the CIA or the USG? CIA.
Yeah, they give them different names. It could be the CIA or whoever you want.
You probably have a hard time telling who's working for who in those kind of places, I guess.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, and then where does all that drug money go? To the people who run the show?
To secret programs that the government has, mostly in the space program.
Yeah.
And
it's hard to imagine that the space program is just sitting down there doing not much of anything these days after the shuttle.
No,
there's
right
a lot
now,
going on.
Yeah, they have about 2,000 astronauts supporting a secret space program, and basically what they do is they have, over the last 30 years, they put in orbit 24 orbiting weaponized satellites, plus 2 command and control satellites which control these weapons, and that's where all the money went. Back in the Apollo days, the Apollo was just a hoax. What we were doing, or when I say we, what the secret government was doing,
right,
was pulling all that money from what was supposed to be the moon exploration program into building these satellites. And the reason we did that is because, it's just control.
24 weaponized satellites.
Right.
And you say these have been going on since the 60s, since we've had
the first rocket that carried anything up there was launched 3 months before Apollo 11 went up, and so that would be May of 1969, and it was called Project Aquila. And then after that, they just built more and more and more until now it's an operating constellation, and there's a constellation of weapons, and it takes a lot of people to support it. There's 24 launching areas around the world, most of which the public has no knowledge. They know about Vandenberg and they know about Cape Canaveral,
sure.
But there's a lot in Russia and China and other South America that they don't know about. But that's how they can carry out this program so secretly, is because they launch in areas which we normally don't see.
Oh, I see. So you don't see any rockets going off John Lear down in Florida,
right.
So the space program is quiet. And right? Is that the idea?
Yeah, that's the idea. And the reason the space shuttle program is shut down is because they don't want us to think anything more about space. They just want it out of our minds.
Do you have some ideas, or do you have some direct knowledge of what these satellites can do? And
sure,
do you?
Sure, just look at the World Trade Center. There was no planes there, no Arabs. That was all BS. What they did was that they have a weapon that uses molecular disassociation technology. And that's why there was so much dust around there, and there was no wreckage. I mean, everybody looked for building material down. There was no concrete there. There was no steel there. There was maybe one story of stuff, but all the rest of the stuff disintegrated. And that's what those weapons can do. And they did it in about 20 seconds. So those are the power that those weapons have.
What about all the thermite that's been found there?
Oh, that is a disinformation story. Thermite is used to split rails and weld rails. If they were going to use thermite for that building, they would have had to put it on every floor. I think somebody estimated they would have had 60 tons of that stuff.
Right. Well, there's people that argue that that's what happened, before it went on. But you believe this is all done from satellites?
Yeah, and if you want to get the technology, read the book by Judy Woods, Dr. Woods, and it's called Where Did the Towers Go? Now, she does not support that they came from space. She says she doesn't know where they came from, but she does support the disassociation technology, the molecular disassociation technology, and it's a fantastic book. It's about 500 pages long. It's 4-color. It's got all kinds of diagrams, and it's when you're done reading that book, you know beyond a shadow of doubt that that was the kind of weapon that was used to demolish the World Trade Centers.
Where it was fired on the different floors at exactly the same time, and the whole thing just fell down?
No, it just fired right straight through the middle and of the top of the buildings, and got all 110 stories within the first 10 seconds. It just disintegrated.
Pancake. Well, and then
it didn't pancake.
No, it didn't pancake. It was a controlled demolition. It looks like that, right?
Yeah, but it disintegrated. It didn't demolish. It just disintegrated.
Just disintegrated.
That's why there's so much dust around Manhattan. 3 inches of dust.
So rather than the thermite argument, John Lear, where it blew out the different beams at each floor and then it fell down on itself, you're saying you've seen arguments that it just disintegrates every particle in the building. Just
absolutely. And
wow.
And one of the first trials of that weapon was on Oklahoma City, the Mira building. Everybody thinks that it was ammonium nitrate, and that Timothy McVeigh could have done that with a van. Well, there might have been some of that, but the main explosion was from the space weapons. And the way you can tell that is to take any picture of the Mira building and compare it with the disintegration of the World Trade Center buildings, and you'll see it's identical force that's being used to disintegrate those things. And of course, after McVeigh got caught, during all the investigations, they found that several of the columns inside the building had explosives wrapped around the columns. And the reason those were there was if the weapon didn't work, they were going to set those off and demolish the building. So something happened that they weren't able to set those things off, and when the FBI went in and found all those explosives, they just kept it quiet because they didn't know how to explain it.
Leroy from Louisville says, well, then how do you explain that there was, in fact, thermite found in the World Trade Center dust, and it's being argued by the architects and all that for 9/11 that there is thermite there.
Well,
I mean, they found thermite, haven't they, John Lear?
First of all, it didn't show up until 8 years later. So there's no, the government or whoever's running the show has to come up with these excuses. And what they do is they come up, oh, by the way, we just found thermite. That must be it, Why didn't they find that, a couple days afterwards? So I would really say, if you found the thermite, where is it? How did it get there? How did they were able to use 80 tons of it to promote the disintegration? It's not possible.
Yeah, but the government have never admitted that there was even thermite. Don't they still go with the original story? The two planes.
They're still going with the airplanes flying into the building, but there was never one single part that we could identify with any one of the 9 million parts of those two airplanes was found. There was nothing there. No airplane at all. Not to mention the fact that those pilots could not have flown that kind of a profile and hit a 208-foot wide building at 561 miles an hour. That's not even to mention that those airplanes couldn't go 561 miles an hour. That story is so full of holes.
You mean even a skilled pilot like yourself? I mean, now you have thousands and 30,000 hours.
Yeah.
Could you not take a commercial airliner and do what they did?
Not the first time. I could have done it after 5 or 6 passes.
Really?
Because what I do is I'd line up the buildings that were going under me and know which one I had to be over at what time. But not the first time out. And you can look on the internet and find all the people, the airline pilots that have tried that. And they've all come up empty. They can't do it the first time.
What do you mean? Explain what you just said. It was interesting about lining it up and all of that, John Lear.